Hi there, it's Tammy here. And in this video, I'm going to be giving my perspective on why I believe the time you announce your pregnancy should be a personal choice as opposed to the current 12-week standard, and why connection and community support are vital in those early weeks. And in a recent video, I spoke about a number of women I've worked with over the years, whose pregnancy journeys have been filled with high highs and devastating lows. From women who have, one child and the road to adding to their family, although filled with loss, was also included, incredible joy. I've worked with women going through the IVF process to become single mothers by choice, yet were unable to fall pregnant. I've worked with women who have a small tribe of children, but overcame great odds and suffered great loss on the path to creating that small tribe. I've worked with women who've traversed the IVF journey to bring one baby to their family and so want to add to their family, but have been unable to, no matter how hard they've tried, and have suffered devastating loss along this journey. One of my close friends suffered terribly after the loss of her first pregnancy, and seeing this firsthand was absolutely heartbreaking. Although, looking back, knowing what I know now, I feel I definitely could have shown up for her in a different way, but I did the best I could at the time. And of course, I've worked with women who fall pregnant the very first time that they try. And even this can have its own sense of kind of shock and surprise that needs to be processed, But no matter the journey, there's no mistaking that pregnancy can be filled with high highs and absolutely devastating lows. And, no two journeys are ever the same. And no matter the journey or the outcome, every woman that goes through it does need support. It's just the type of support and where they're going to need it is going to be different. But I truly believe that all women need some type of support with this part of their life, because pregnancy and childbearing is a topic that I don't believe that any women can sidestep, irrelevant of whether they have children or not. And the reality is there's a lot of shame, guilt, sadness, and silence in many women's fertility journeys. Even those who don't have children all have a story to tell. But one thing that I do believe is that this silence, this feeling of shame or guilt in many women's fertility journeys is something that actually needs to change. I think it needs to be talked about more. The silence needs to turn into conversations, and I think the conversations being had and the language being used around it absolutely needs to change, And while I understand everyone is free to choose what they believe is best for them, I believe an area that we need to see change in is the standardized 12-week wait to announce your pregnancy. Personally, I believe that we should view this as, this is your pregnancy journey. Announce whenever you feel is the right time for you personally. Of course, the reasons for waiting the 12 weeks are well known. Most of us know between 10 and 25% of known pregnancies do sadly end in miscarriage, and roughly 80% of these miscarriages happen in the first trimester. We also know the risk of miscarriage falls to 5% after the first 12 weeks. And I could easily spend some time here talking about the fact that waiting for 12 weeks before announcing is something that's only really come about since the introduction of the 12-week ultrasound back in the late 50s, kind of early 60s, I think. But I think just a mention around this medically created practice kind of is enough, I'm pretty sure before this, when women fell pregnant, they'd watch for signs like missed cycles, sore breasts, and morning sickness, Maybe it wouldn't be until they felt the baby start fluttering and moving did they, 100% know. But I'm pretty sure they weren't holding back on sharing the news once they were experiencing the signs, if you know what I mean. But modern medicine has kind of given us a way to view our pregnancies differently. I mean, literally, ultrasound actually allows you to actually see your baby, right? And as human beings, we are very, very visual beings. So for a lot of people, you know, the 12-week scan is actually when the realization comes that, oh my God, yes, we are actually pregnant. And oh my God, we're actually having a baby, and that baby becomes real. But the thing is, from my perspective, when we base decisions around medical practices or around statistics, or more specifically, the statistics of how many pregnancies end in miscarriages, it actually takes the humanity out of it, you know. And too many people get used to the numbers, like 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage, or the risk of miscarriage after 12 weeks is 5%, or the various statistics relating to genetic tests, screens and scans. When we get lost in the statistics, we forget that they actually have humans on the other side of them, you know, humans with real emotions, real lives, and humans being affected, humans that don't need to be facing these experiences in silence or feeling shame and guilt around them. And while I wholeheartedly understand for many the 12-week delay in announcing is genuinely a time to process the immense changes that their life is about to undertake. And I've certainly even known people not to announce even until after the 20-week scan. And of course, there is never any kind of right or wrong path to take here. It's so individual. But one thing that I do believe is it needs to be, this is your pregnancy journey. Announce whenever you feel is the right time for you. And the thing is that most concerns me about waiting the 12 weeks to announce is when you've been keeping your news hush to yourself, and you actually find yourself facing a devastating loss on your own without support, empathy, and understanding from those around you. For those going through these life-altering experiences, it's actually heartbreaking and involves grief unlike any other, you know. And one of the many reasons for this is because society, you know, we don't actually really have any practices that honor this type of loss. We seem to kind of lack the framework for this type of loss because it's usually experienced in silence, alone, or within a small unit of 2. Yet when we grieve other losses, there are rituals that help us do this, you know, dressing in black. We have loved ones coming together for funerals and wakes. And in some cases, you know, there are celebrations of life fully lived. But for early pregnancy loss, there are none of these things. And as a society, we seem to almost diminish this loss or the effect that it can have on women with phrases like, at least you know you can fall pregnant, or it's okay, there was nothing you could have done, or it's okay, it's so common, you can try again. And so many women have heartbreaking stories about what they went through in their fertility journeys. You know, so many women have heard those exact phrases. And if we're going by the statistics, 1 in 4 women have experienced heartbreaking pregnancy loss. And because so many don't actually tell anyone that they're pregnant until the 12-week mark, they go through this pain on their own, alone. For the lucky ones, you know, they do have the unwavering support of a loving partner. But loss and grief can do unusual things to us all, and we all deal with it in our own way. For some, dealing with this loss in privacy with their partner is the only way that they can face it. For others, even with the support of a loving partner, the feeling of loss, grief, shame, guilt, and loneliness can be overwhelming. And I believe anyone experiencing these types of emotions need love, support, and connection. Which is why silence around this topic, why diminishing this type of loss down to statistics can be so devastating, and why I believe that we need to make changes to the standard 12-week announcement. Because if you've experienced loss during this time, it's in the times of loss, grief, and despair that you most need the love, care, compassion, and understanding of those closest to you. Knowing you have people around you that love and care for you helps you through those very dark days. And the last thing that a woman needs during this time is to feel alone. And sadly, because there's still this kind of universal belief that as a woman, our role in family and society is to have children. Now, of course, I understand that the human race wouldn't survive if this wasn't the case. But for those traveling a path that isn't straightforward in their pregnancy journey, when this is the identity that society puts on women, I personally believe that the silence, the secrecy around waiting the 12 weeks creates, or not discussing this journey, only enhances this feeling of being alone. It can also enhance the potential feelings of shame or guilt being experienced along with the grief of early pregnancy loss. And I'm not pulling these words out of nowhere, right? The common themes worldwide around the loss of a pregnancy are shame and they are guilt. And sadly, when this loss is minimized or downplayed by using statistics like 1 in 4 pregnancies end in the first trimester, there's no room to actually acknowledge the loss and grief someone is going through, you know? There's certainly no room to acknowledge the loss and grief if no one knows you're experiencing it in the first place. And the thing is, no one is actually to blame for responses like, at least you know that you can fall pregnant, or it's okay, there's nothing you could have done, or it's okay, it's so common, it happens to 1 in 4 pregnancies, or it's okay, you can try again. I mean, these phrases have been so conditioned into society with statistics that tell us losing a child early in pregnancy is so common, and that it's not a major issue because it's so common. And the thing is that this only adds to the pressure on women to feel like it's not a big deal either. But loss and grief, no matter how common, are a big deal. And they needed to be treated as such, because if we don't process these emotions correctly, those experiencing this type of loss can go on to develop mental health issues that last for months or even years, even if they do go on to deliver healthy babies in the future. It certainly has the capacity to negatively impact a woman's mental and emotional health during any subsequent fertility and pregnancy journeys. And this, of course, can be passed on to the child. In a time where women's mental health and emotional health are already vulnerable to things like anxiety and depression, what women need during early stages of their pregnancy journey is connection, support, and community. And this is exactly why I created my complimentary but private community, because I believe women in this journey need a private space to connect with other women going through similar journeys. And of course, if you're interested in applying to join my community, you'll find the application link in my bio or the video description below. But I also believe that they need education and care that encompasses the vastly different outcomes that each pregnancy can have. And this is, again, is one of the many reasons why I created the Pregnancy Process program. You know, I know what women don't need, and that's to be traveling this path alone in silence because of a standardized 12-week announcement time frame, right? And to be totally honest with you, I think this is only really kind of the start of what needs to change when it comes to the care of our pregnant population. And I think this example is really just a symptom of an overall bigger kind of problem. An overall problem, I believe, is that because pregnancy is so common and happens to around 80% of women, that the physical, mental, and emotional effects of pregnancy, childbirth, and being a mother are actually downplayed, right? And I think while this may be a bigger topic to be tackled on another day, maybe not today. It's genuinely, certainly something that I think we all need to think about. And I challenge you to think of any pregnant women in your lives and where you may be downplaying the gravity of what they're going through as they navigate their pregnancy journey. In the meantime, I want to say to all women out there, being open and vulnerable in sharing your stories, I am in awe of the strength that you're showing to help change the conversation around this topic. And to anyone going through this, please know that you are not alone. And if you need anything, I'm always here. So that's it from me today. I hope this video helps. I'd really love to continue this conversation with you in my complimentary but private community. So if you'd like to continue this conversation, feel free to apply. That's it today. I'll see you in the next video.